friends. This is Jewelry Jelly here with Catherine and George Washing Machine and Lika Kirby. Or Kirby Lika, should I say. Anyways, I just got this today. It is the Lika doll of Kirby, and it's very cute, if I do say so myself. And thank you very much for the 29-month resub, MJD82. Thank you very much. We are just going to get everything set up here. Give me 1 second. Doodly-doo. There we go. All right. Yes, you gotta keep the streak alive. All right, so basically, when last we played, just cracking open a nice cold LaCroix here. The Archduke had invited the nobility who had gathered at the cathedral for the observation of the funeral of the king to the ancient city of Ladon, where he revealed his true form to be one of the ancient dragons whose rights were enshrined in Wormgard's constitution as being equal to the king. He is the one that will be passing judgment on Arya Steelwind as she is accused of mass murder. You step outside the Scaled Lord's lair to get some fresh air. These new revelations are a lot to take in. Celeste looks especially down. From what you have observed, she and Arya have been speaking to each other a lot. They must have become friends over the many times they've met. You can't imagine how powerless she feels right now. Arya, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Her voice begins to break. Alright, 1 second, please. Okay, I know that we were having audio issues last time. I put in some duplicate ones, and I have now taken them out. So hopefully you guys should be hearing me above the game well. I'm also thinking about possibly getting a new microphone, because the one that I have is just a basic one, and I want to try to get a noise canceling one. Probably that will help things out a lot. It is Christmas after all, so... Her voice begins to break. She's always been stoic, but it's clear even she has her breaking point. You do sound robotically echoey, but it's tolerable. Okay. Let me try. Okay, does this sound a little bit better? Okay. I can't imagine what you're feeling right now, but there's still hope. If we can find out who did this to you, we can still save you. Do you remember if you signed anything recently? No, I don't. Damn it, the patron must have wiped your memories to cover their tracks. But I still don't understand. Even if I don't remember signing that contract, I don't think I would be that careless. Right, as much as I hate to admit it, Lucio was right. You're an attorney like me, and we always carefully look over contracts before we sign them. Which raises the question of how the patron got your signature. I don't know. Damn it, we don't even know what circumstances you were under when you signed that contract. For all we know, the patron could have used any number of tactics to coerce you into doing this. That's also possible. Arya, as you're deliberating amongst yourselves, Lord Steelwind approaches you. What are you doing here? Father. I can't believe him. How does he have nothing to say? His actions say otherwise. But but you could have sworn you saw something through the eye. It's almost as if he was saddened and worried. Well, no matter how he feels internally, he's made it clear that he's your enemy. Whatever his motivations are, you'll overcome them, just like everyone else. We should also head back, Celeste. Right. No matter what it takes, you're going to see this through. Court is now resumed. Shall we pick up where we carried off? How would you like to proceed? I think we should review what we do know about the murders. We do have a plethora of witnesses to work with. That's correct. So let's start from the beginning. It all began at noon yesterday morning. I was at my house in Rathholm with Arya and my bodyguard, Celeste. I was speaking with them when a courier suddenly delivered a letter to my home. It was from Garrick Pierce. He wanted to meet with me and Celeste at the Grand Cathedral of the Scaled Lord at 2:00 p.m. To make sure we were on time, we arrived at the Grand Cathedral at 1:00 p.m. At the time, we didn't know that the cathedral was closed to the public, but the Knights Guard of the cathedral allowed us through anyways. Apparently, they were expecting us. That should not have been possible. Due to the solemnity of the situation, we were very particular about who was permitted to enter the cathedral. It's possible someone pulled some strings to let us through. Or you two entered the cathedral illegally. Well, I'm sure that knight from the Kingsguard can vouch for us. I know about every order given to the Kingsguard, and none of them were told to let you two through. It's possible the night we met felt comatose like the others, and as long as they're unresponsive, we'll never know. Perhaps we should continue. Anyways, we arrived at the church and spent the next hour sightseeing before we went to meet with Pierce. In that time, we met with Remus, Lucio, Arya, Aster, and Alaric. And around that time, Arya and Aster left together to meet with the High Speaker in his quarters. While exploring the cathedral, we spoke with Von Sanctus and Sybil. Then we spoke with the three Frege sisters and Eris Ilmater. Eris Ilmater? She's a friend of Beatrice Frege. The Kingsguard wouldn't let her bring her familiar into the cathedral, so she brought Eris to guide her instead. Anyways, we left the garden at around 1:45 p.m. to meet with Pierce in the prayer room. And at around the same time, Arya left her meeting with the High Speaker and felt nauseous. The last thing she remembers is looking at Lake Gallicrond. A likely story. Regardless, at 2:00 p.m., Aster went to pay respects to his father's body. Unbeknownst to him, a mage had placed a glyph of contingency in front of his father's coffin. It was set to trap him within a force cage. What a despicable act. Considering what followed, the attack on His Majesty must have been a diversion. Right. It was also at this time that both Beatrice and Eris went missing. Considering the timing of it all, someone must have taken control of Beatrice's body after the trap on Aster was sprung. And are you saying this patron controlled her as well? No, I don't think so. According to her contract, her mind belongs to the Empress of Discord, not the patron. Furthermore, Arya's blood contract was created by the Empress. It's clear that the patron and the Empress were in league with each other. Wonderful. Another demon we have to worry about. Anyways, the patron and the Empress had all of the pieces they needed. That's when they began the massacre. The patron took control of Arya's body, and they used her to murder Von Sanctus at 2:05 p.m. Presumably, Arya started a fire in the common room around this time, and since Von Sanctus's body was found there, this must have been after she murdered him. Shortly after, Prince Alaric spotted smoke from the fire and asked Arya what was going on. Arya responded by using an unknown transmutation spell to incapacitate him. To think they would use her to attack the prince as well. Luckily, the effects of that spell were only temporary, and Alaric came out unharmed. After this, the patron used Arya to murder Sybil at 2:15 p.m. She brought Sybil's body to the westward balcony, where she dumped it into Lake Gallicrod. High Speaker Archius witnessed this, but he wasn't aware of what she'd thrown off the balcony until much later. The High Speaker thought this encounter was strange, but he continued with his business. He headed to the prayer room, but was turned away by the knights. Excuse me. Long day. But was turned away by the knights standing guard there. Meanwhile, Celeste and I were talking to Lord Pierce. When we showed up for the meeting earlier, he was clearly expecting someone else to show up. We tried to get to the bottom of what was happening, but he refused to answer our questions. And at about 2:20 p.m., we heard a commotion outside. Celeste went to investigate. And that's when Celeste fought Arya. The patron's target was Garrick Pierce, but Celeste was too powerful to neutralize. They fought each other for about 15 minutes before Arya was finally able to push past her. During their fight, the Empress sent Beatrice into the prayer room. She probably made Beatrice invisible to move undetected. She then used her to cast a sleep spell on Pierce and me to knock us out. I remember checking the time close to when this happened. This must have happened at 2:30 p.m. If your testimony is correct, Beatrice Frege was actively used in this play. Yes, and considering how quickly the massacre unfolded, the Empress must have coordinated with the patron. They probably planned how they would use Beatrice and Arya to carry out the murders. Anyways, after Beatrice knocked us out, Arya finally pushed past Celeste and entered the prayer room. And before Celeste could chase after her, she had already murdered Pierce. Arya and I were already unconscious by the time Celeste entered the room. The patron had already achieved their goal of murdering the three nobles. So she probably fell unconscious after they released her control over her. Arya and I regained consciousness shortly after. That's when the Inquisition arrested her for the murders. Lord Pierce was one of the victims. Your meeting clearly had more significance than I'd realized. So tell us, Cuthbert, what was your discussion about? It's fine, you can tell me. Alright, as long as it's okay with you. For the past few months, Celeste and I have been investigating who her birth parents are. I recall receiving many complaints about her during the Lord's Ball. Supposedly, Garrick Pierce had the information we were seeking. That letter he sent us said that he wanted to trade this information for his freedom. I assumed this meant that he wanted me to be his attorney. Do you honestly expect us to believe that? Why would he ask for help from the attorney who indicted him in the first place? We thought the same thing. And when we arrived for the meeting, it was clear I wasn't the intended recipient. This means that Pierce sent that letter to someone else. You better not be lying to us, Cuthbert. Frankly, I don't much care if you believe me. Regardless, if we examine every action Arya took, we can build a psychological profile of the patron. I will give you that. To begin, the defense would like to call the Inquisition commander to the stand. His testimony might shed some light on how Von Sanctus and Sybil died. Despite all these witness accounts, we still only know how Pierce was murdered. Yes, he was impaled using a blade magically frozen from his own blood. In a grim sort of way, it's almost poetic that he died the same way Flintheart did. But you doubt that will give Celeste any kind of closure. Anyways, we need to find out exactly how Arya murdered Von Sanctus and Sybil. The massacre was swift and efficient. It must have required a lot of forethought and coordination. If we figured out who might have had this knowledge, we might be able to find out who did this. I see. That sounds as good a plan as any. Kingsguard, escort Commander Orym White to the witness stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Right, Commander? I'm sorry, I just can't do this. How am I supposed to act like this is normal? A giant lizard is standing right behind me. Calling me a lizard is highly offensive, Commander. Sorry, your skill lordship, sir. Commander, just try your best to testify about what happened. Yeah. It all started when we received a report from the Kingsguard. The prosecutor attacked Prince Alaric, and a fire had broken out in the common room. We weren't sure what the deal with Steelwind was, so we went to the common room to put out the fire. But when we got there, we noticed a bunch of unconscious knights in front of the prayer room. We went to the prayer room. That's when we found Steelwind and Cuthbert unconscious next to Pierce's dead body. We later found the bodies of Von Sanctus and Sybil, too. That's when we realized that she'd off all three of them. So you still have no idea how Steelwind was used to murder Von Sanctus or Sybil? Not a clue. It is especially worse for Von Sanctus. That fire burned a lot of the physical evidence off of his body. What about Sybil? Was there any physical evidence on her body? No idea about that either. She didn't have any wounds either. All we know is that she died of suffocation. There's definitely more information you can glean from their investigation. Alright, let's see here. Despite how much you know, there are a lot of details missing about how Von Sanctus and Sybil died, but the Inquisition might have found some clues that you missed. You should have the commander elaborate on what they know about each of the murders. Judging from the timing, this would have been several minutes after he'd already died. Yeah, and we had no idea what was going on. Pierce was already dead. And you and Steelwind were unresponsive. I can see why I'd be unresponsive. I was hit with a spell specifically designed to make people sleep. But why would Arya be unresponsive too? We have no idea. We've never even heard of demonic possession until today. For all we know, it could have all been a side effect of being controlled for over an hour. You suppose that makes sense, but could that common thread truly be a mere coincidence? That last statement was a little vague. Perhaps you should ask him to elaborate more on one of the murders. But whose murder should he elaborate on? Could you elaborate more on Von Sanctus's murder? Was there any evidence that implied how he died? Like I said, it's trickier with Von Sanctus because the fire partially burnt his body. And our divination magic could only tell that he died of suffocation. I see, so there's no other physical evidence. Well, there is one thing. From his burn marks, we do know that he was hit with a firebolt before he died. We're guessing she wanted to weaken him before she dealt the final blow. So he took a direct attack from her before he died. Anyways, please add this to your testimony, Commander White. Sure, whatever you say, kid. Okay, so... Oh, we got a spell compendium.
Objection!
That's strange. What is it now? Commander White, you said that Steelwind attacked Von Sanctus with a firebolt before she suffocated him. Yeah, she probably wanted to injure him so he'd be easier to subdue. But that's what I find strange. Von Sanctus knew he was under attack. So wouldn't he cast Force Cage to repel her? I guess that's true. Von Sanctus was hardly a warrior, Cuthbert. Force Cage is an extremely useful spell, but it has to be aimed. He was hit with a firebolt, and he must have been in immense pain. I doubt he'd be able to think clearly under those circumstances. I normally agree with you, but the crime scene story. What do you mean, Mr. Cuthbert? What implies that Von Sanctus cast Force Cage? Well, there is that trace of magic around him, and... let's see. Traces of abjuration magic were found on and around the body. No, Steel Wings is somewhat believable, but you remember there's something you found in the crime scene, and it tells you whether Von Sanctus cast Force Cage or not. When we investigated the crime scene, we found traces of abjuration magic that formed a perfect square around the body. I'm sure if we measured the dimensions of that square, it would be 10 feet by 10 feet, which is the same length and width as the cube created by Force Cage. Like you said, he was in no shape to aim at, so he cast Force Cage on himself to create a makeshift barrier.
Objection!
Nonsense! If Von Sanctus had cast Force Cage on himself, he should have been protected from further harm. The defendant wouldn't have been able to suffocate him after that. Perhaps there's some way to bypass Force Cage. And once again, your ignorance of the arcane arts is made apparent. Force Cage is one of the most powerful abjuration spells in existence. It can't be dispelled and no one can teleport into or out of it. But could air get in? Right, Aster was also trapped in a Force Cage, and he had to wait for the hour duration to elapse. So how did Steel Wings suffocate him? Wait. The Force Cage is a perfectly closed space. Is it possible that he ran out of air? That would be a glaring weakness. House Von Sanctus obviously designed that spell to allow oxygen through the barrier. But if he was on fire... And before you ask, poisonous gases can't be pushed through the barrier either. Only oxygen can travel through it. Right, and even if they had used poisonous gas, the autopsy report wouldn't have said he was suffocated. How did Arya suffocate Von Sanctus? Only oxygen can travel through the bounds of a Force Cage. So how did Arya suffocate Von Sanctus despite that? The fire consumed all the oxygen inside the cage. No, Arya had no way to physically harm Von Sanctus or prevent him from breathing. If she was outside the Force Cage, how could she have suffocated him? Force Cage is specifically designed to allow oxygen through its barrier. But what if there was no oxygen left in the room? No oxygen? Ah, I see. It was the fire in the common room. The patron knew Arya couldn't harm Von Sanctus once he was in that Force Cage. So she started a fire to eat all of the oxygen in the room. The murder of Von Sanctus has been updated in your notes. Yep, lack of oxygen. What should have protected him ended up trapping him, and the inability to dispel it ended up sealing his fate. Well, I suppose that explains how the defendant murdered Von Sanctus. But with that in mind, a lot of this plan sounds like it was improvised at the moment. Just like the murder of Pierce. And not only that, we assumed that the patron used the same method to kill both Lord Von Sanctus and Lady Sybil. But I doubt Lady Sybil died under the same circumstances. Correct. There was only one fire. And if Sybil was in that Force Cage, the defendant wouldn't have been able to throw her body into Lake Galacrond. Which means Sybil must have died by asphyxiation elsewhere. Then it's clear our next course of action is to determine how Lady Sybil was murdered. But we still don't know where she was murdered. And the only witness who saw her around this time was the High Speaker. Which was after the defendant disposed of Sybil's body. Well, the High Speaker's testimony is as good a start as any. For our next witness, the defense would like to call High Speaker Theon Archius to the stand. What's wrong? It's nothing. Please Please, carry on. Kingsguard, escort High Speaker Archius to the witness stand. Witness, you will testify about... Oh, great and blessed Scale Lord! To think you would grace us with your presence. Oh my god. Forgive me, Lord Berthalion. I spoke out of turn. You must think I'm an arrogant fool. Wow, looks like the witness is schmoozing the judge for once. How many times do I have to tell you people that I'm not a god? Yes, I revere and serve the god of dragons, but I am not Bahamut's avatar. But you're the Skilled Lord. I'm just a dragon. I'm not even a powerful one. I'm not a deity. This humility, that's exactly what Bahamut's avatar would say. I swear to God. He even swears by the god's name. Lucio, please, handle this. Perhaps another approach is warranted. High Speaker Archies, the great and powerful Berthalion calls upon you today. We require You require my blood? Of course, I will gladly give my life for the Scaled Lord. What? No! Of course, my blood could never be enough. Would you just let me? I will do as you wish, my lord. It might take some time, though. I'll need some time to gather some followers and... Oh my god, we just want your testimony. Just tell us what you saw when Miss Steelwind was at the westward balcony yesterday. Oh, I see. If that's what you truly wish, my lord. Are we just going to ignore how ready he was to commit mass murder? Be quiet. We just got him to calm down. I was doing some paperwork in my quarters, and I suppose I lost track of the time. My alarm went off, and I realized that it was time for my afternoon prayers. I began heading to the prayer room when I spotted Lady Steelwind looking over the westward balcony. I tried to greet her, but she didn't respond to me. Excuse me. That's when I noticed she was pushing something large over the balcony and into Lake Galacrond. I asked her what she was doing, but again, she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. I thought nothing of it, and made my way there as well. That's when the guards there turned me away. I went back to my quarters to do my prayers there. Considering the timing of it all, this must have all happened minutes before she began attacking the prayer room. Yes, I consider myself lucky. The Scaled Lord must have graced me with divine luck. Please, just stop. Considering how quickly she was moving, there has to be a reason why she waited there. Was she waiting for the High Speaker to leave? Perhaps you should closely examine the timing of these events.
Objection!
Ah, whoops-doodle. So she ignored you. What was her expression like? It was very cold and emotionless. The patron must have had control of her when this happened. Yes, that certainly makes the most sense. What time did this encounter happen? It was shortly after my alarm went off. It was definitely before 2:15 p.m. There's a very small time frame between Sybil's death and Arya's attack on the prayer room. The details of his testimony could make a huge difference depending on when each event happened. We should see if he remembers the exact time each part of his testimony occurred. An alarm? It's a rudimentary artificery device. I use it to remind me to conduct daily prayers. I see. And do you have it set up to go off at a specific time? Yes, it's set to go off at 2:10 p.m., 5 minutes before my afternoon prayers. So she was looking over Lake Galacrond? Knowing what I know now, it's possible that she was making sure she could throw Lady Sybil's body into the lake from there. But she was clearly fine with you witnessing her act suspiciously. Why would she even go to the trouble of hiding Sybil's body in the first place? The patron clearly needed to delay when the murders were discovered. The defendant wasn't able to murder Pierce until much later, after all. You suppose that makes sense, but they probably didn't plan to fight Celeste for that long. There has to be a reason why she threw Sybil's body into the lake. And that must have been Sybil's body. I suppose so. You don't sound so sure of it yourself. It's just that I recall Lady Sybil's garb to be much brighter. Meanwhile, the thing I saw Lady Steelwind throw over the balcony was much darker. Right, you mentioned that before. It's clear it was just a trick of the sunlight. That balcony is directly above where we found Lady Sybil's body in Lake Gallicrond. You obviously saw the defendant dumping the body. What else could it have been? Yes, I suppose you're right. The patron was probably trying to keep her on track, but I'm surprised she didn't attack you. Even if the patron was trying to frame her, she hadn't killed Pierce yet. Yes, I'm a little confused about that myself, but perhaps I should just be happy I came out of that encounter unharmed. Anyways, how long did you talk to her? Our encounter was very brief since she was ignoring me. It couldn't have lasted for more than 2 minutes. Right, and these guards are still comatose? It makes you uneasy that you still don't have an explanation for that. Did the Empress of Discord use some kind of demonic magic to do that? The Eye of Horus doesn't leave magical traces, so it's possible that demonic magic is the same. Either way, it's awfully convenient he left right before the attack on the prayer room happened. But you suppose you'll have to put a pin in that for now. Anyways, what time did this happen? I believe it was 2:15 p.m. That's when I usually arrive at the prayer room. You were in your quarters during the massacre? Yes, as I've mentioned before, my room is magically soundproof. My guards and I were woefully unaware of what was happening. We didn't know what was happening until some members of the King's Guard came to inform me of what happened to the king. So members of the King's Guard were there with him, and he mentioned that his guards were there too. They can all probably verify this, but it's still a little hard to believe how close he came to harm that day. Anyways, how long were you in your quarters for? I waited there until the King's Guard notified me that it was safe. I think I waited there until 3:15 p.m., which was around the time that Arya was arrested. Okay.
Objection!
Wait, what? Is something wrong? There is, but I'm not really sure what it means. Stop stammering and say what you want to say. Hi, Speaker. You said that you saw Arya dumping something over the ledge of the balcony. There's no need to be vague, Cuthbert. It's clear from the evidence that he saw my daughter dumping Lady Sybil's body. That's the thing, Lord Steelwind. It couldn't have been Sybil's body. What are you talking about? The location from that balcony to where we found Lady Sybil's body lines up perfectly. That may be, but the witness just said he saw Arya dumping the body before 2:15 p.m. Wait. You see it too, don't you, Lucio? How did Arya dump Coraline Sybil's body into Lake Gallicrond before 2:15 p.m.? If her time of death was 2:18 p.m. I see, that does seem peculiar. But we know the defendant threw Sybil's body from that balcony. But what if it was her body in a different state? There would be no other explanation for how it ended up there. Yes, that's also true. Perhaps she was still alive when Arya threw her off that balcony. She could have been knocked unconscious with a sleep spell. Your Grace, there were no traces of conjuration magic on her body. And even if she was asleep, she wouldn't have survived a fall from that height. The distance from that balcony to the lake is more than 30 stories. And the autopsy report says that the cause of death was suffocation, not blood. force. Right. So when did she die? She must have died after she hit the water. But Mr. Cuthbert Lucio just said that she would have died upon impact. But that's assuming she didn't do anything to lessen the blow. She might have had the opportunity to cast a spell to protect herself. That might explain why her body isn't as damaged despite falling from such a great height.
Objection!
Again, that does not match with the evidence. Lady Sybil's spell compendium contains the spell Slow Fall. If she had the opportunity to cast a spell, she would have used that spell to slow her descent. And she wouldn't have taken any damage from hitting the lake if she'd done that. That's a really good point. But just indulge me for a second. Which spell did Sybil cast on herself? Stone Skin! She must have cast Stone Skin on herself. Stone Skin. If you recall, the High Speaker mentioned that something was strange about the objects Arya threw over the balcony. It was much darker and didn't match with Sybil's usual garb. Almost as if there was something else Sybil was wearing. That object was actually Lady Sybil, protected by a layer of stone. But that still doesn't explain why she would cast that instead of Slow Fall. He's right. Why did Sybil cast Stone Skin on herself? Okay. She cast Stone Skin on herself before she was thrown into the lake. Arya must have attacked her, and she cast that spell in response. That would protect her from the Steel Wind strike. But that doesn't seem quite right. What do you mean? I may not have seen much, but I saw that the object Arya dumped was stiff and motionless. If it had been Lady Sybil, she would have been struggling against her, wouldn't she? That's a good point, too. The High Speaker saw Arya dumping a motionless Sybil. But if we assume my logic is correct, she would have also still been alive. Why was Sybil motionless despite being conscious? So why wasn't she struggling against Arya? She must have been affected by a spell, and considering it kept her from resisting Arya, the patron must have made Arya cast that spell on her. Which spell did Arya cast on Sybil? Hold Creature. It was Hold Creature. Sybil must have cast Stone Skin on herself when Arya attacked her. The patron must have known that Arya couldn't physically damage her like that. So they ordered her to restrain Sybil with that spell. And Sybil died by suffocation. That's right, Lucio. How did Sybil suffocate? Even if she was restrained, Sybil was still protected by Stone Skin. That would have left only one option for the patron. Sybil suffocated when Arya threw her into Lake Galacrond. Her Stone Skin lessened the impact of the fall, but it also made her drop like a literal rock. Arya's Hold Creature spell prevented her from moving or releasing her spell. She was helpless as she sank to the bottom of the lake. I believe that covers all three of the murders, then. Yes. Lord von Sanctus suffocated to death in his own force cage. Lady Sybil drowned after Arya cast Hold Creature on her. And Lord Pierce died after being wounded by a blade created with shaped liquid. The only common thread I see is that the patron used some of the victims' magics against them. But how does that connect to Pierce?
Did he cast shape liquid to make a blade to defend himself? Maybe the murderer took it from him and used it against him. No, but he was knocked unconscious alongside you. He couldn't have been the one to create that blade. Anyways, whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of each of the spells they used to defend themselves. They knew that Von Sanctus couldn't dispel his own force cage, and they also knew that he still needed oxygen from within it. And in Sybil's case, they knew Arya couldn't physically harm her once she had Stone Skin active. They also knew that Hold Creature would prevent Sybil from dispelling her own Stone Skin. Not only that, they did all of this in a quick time frame. Von Sanctus and Sybil died within 13 minutes of each other. And if Arya hadn't encountered Celeste, Pierce might have died just as quickly. So whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of high-level magic. Not only that, they came up with creative ways to bypass the defenses put up by Von Sanctus and Sybil. Yes, they had the ability to react quickly and decisively. But considering the circumstances, that hardly narrows it down. Several members of the Four Pillar families were present that day. Each and every one of them studied at the Imperial Academy. They would all be knowledgeable in magic and its applications. Something they're saying isn't sitting right by you for some reason. There's something there, so why can't you see it? Ugh, it's no use. You just can't piece it together yet. But you're not finished yet. There's another angle to this. Consider who the patron did and didn't target. What's similar about some of the targets? The victims were Lloyd Von Sanctus, Coraline Sybil, and Garrick Pierce. What's a similarity that we can draw between at least two of them? Von Sanctus and Sybil were the heads of their respective noble houses. Are you saying the patron's goal was to assassinate leaders of the Four Pillars? That's the motive that makes the most sense. But that does leave one question. Don't be coy. I'm not daft, Cuthbert. Actually, I highly doubt that it was you. Really now. Out of most of the people there, you could have easily tricked your daughter into signing a blood contract. But why would you need to do that? You're the Grand General of Wyvern Guard's military, and the cathedral was filled with your men. You could have easily equipped one of your best mages to carry out this massacre. And you wouldn't even need to make a deal with a demon to do so. So why wasn't Lucio targeted then? From her encounter with Celeste, it's clear there's a limit to Arya's combat capabilities. The patron might have simply doubted Arya's ability to defeat the Grand General. But there's also another explanation. Why didn't the patron target Lucio Steelwind? The patron wanted people to suspect House Steelwind for the murders. They used Lucio Steelwind's daughter to commit the crime. Then they intentionally left him alive to cast suspicion on him. That's why they used my daughter? Is that a tinge of anger you feel from him? Anyways, that leads me to my next point. Imagine if we never discovered Arya's blood contract with the Empress of Discord. What would have happened? We'd still think that Ms. Steelwind succumbed to mage blight. She would have been convicted for the murders, and trust in House Steelwind would be forever diminished. About a month ago, House Freyga lost its head, and his successor, Leifa Freyga, was woefully unprepared to take his place. Now, the heads of House Von Sanctus and House Sybil are dead, with House Steelwind being held responsible for it all. All four of the Pillar families would have been weakened as a result of the massacre. But I think there's another layer to this. Everything fits together if we assume that the patron's goal was to weaken the Pillar families. Except for the murder of Garrick Pierce. Yes. In contrast to Sybil and von Sanctus, Pierce's political power pales in comparison. Furthermore, Pierce was already scheduled to be executed next month for the murder of Flintheart McCoy. Why did the patron target Garrick Pierce? Why would the patron go to the trouble of murdering a condemned man? No, Pierce was going to die regardless of what the patron did. But there has to be something Pierce did recently. Something that made the patron decide to murder him as soon as possible. The patron murdered Pierce because they needed him to die as quickly as possible. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's biological parents. My parents? Do you remember what Pierce said when we showed up for the meeting? Ah, you finally arrived. I suppose this means you've finally decided. Wait, you two? We got your letter. Letter? What letter? You sent us a letter, Pierce. It said that you knew who Celeste's parents were. I did send that letter, but not to you two. We weren't the intended recipients of that letter. That's right! So that leaves one last question. Who did Pierce originally send that letter to? There's only one person Pierce could have sent that letter to. The person who orchestrated the massacre in the first place. The patron. But that means the patron is someone who would be threatened by Celeste's parentage. Order! Order in the court! But I don't understand. I'm sorry. I know this is a lot to take in, but I think they were targeting you for some reason. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's parents and attempted to blackmail the patron with this. Instead of complying with Pierce's demands, the patron instead sent the letter to me. But why go to the trouble of luring you there? They could have just allowed Pierce to wait in the prayer room while the defendant made her way to murder him. Looking back on it, it's possible they wanted to kill Celeste too. What? They knew I wouldn't meet with Pierce alone, and the information he had was about her. The patron correctly guessed that I'd bring her with me. By killing both Pierce and Celeste, they'd eliminate any threat Celeste would pose to them. But who would be threatened by such information? The mere existence of McCoy posed a threat to them. It must have something to do with her birthright. Right. So who would that leave? King de Wyverngard just recently died. What if Celeste was a member of the royal family? You think I'm a princess? I don't want to suspect Aster, but we need to consider every possibility. And when it comes to conflicts of inheritance, a royal line of succession is the first thing that comes to mind. Not only that, the king would have had the authority to pardon Pierce for his crimes. But that wouldn't entirely make sense. What do you mean? If McCoy was abandoned at a tavern in Cornhaven, we must assume she's a bastard child. Okay, I don't know why you have to bring that up. My point is that King Olivier wouldn't abandon a child of pure royal blood. The kingdom requires heirs to continue the royal bloodline. He would have leveraged her in a diplomatic marriage. That's disgusting. That's diplomacy, Cuthbert. Anyways, even if McCoy was of royal blood, Aster is the king's eldest child. And he's of pure royal blood. McCoy would have no claim to the throne under these circumstances. Right. I see what you mean. I suppose that eliminates Aster for now. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? I recall during Beatrice Frega's trial, we heard William Frega's last will and testament. It mentioned that House Frega's assets would be divided evenly between all of his children. Ah, if McCoy were to be revealed as a Frega, his daughters would be legally obligated to share the estate with her. Could I seriously be a Frega? I don't want to suspect Leifa or Miriam, but we need to consider every possibility. And as we've seen, the Fregas are no strangers to making deals with demons. But it still doesn't quite fit. I doubt Leifa or Miriam would do something like this. What are you basing that on? I tend to be a good judge of character, and they just don't seem like the type to do something like this. Bah, you're far too trusting. I hold no doubt that any of William's children would be capable of something like this. I suppose we'll have to see. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? As much as I have my doubts, House Steelwind is the only Pillar family whose house leader survived the past month. You think I'm McCoy's biological father? Ugh, you're barely a father to your actual daughter. I'm only stating that possibility for the sake of an argument. As I've said, it wouldn't make sense for you to frame your own daughter when House Steelwind would be blamed. But we need to consider every possibility. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? What if the Eye Taker orchestrated this whole thing? The Eye Taker? That common criminal? What reason would he have to do this? I've heard firsthand that he was planning to expand his influence throughout Wyverngard. He was actually plotting with Beatrice to use House Freyga to do so. Since I ruined his original plans, setting up that massacre might have been his backup plan. Perhaps we're looking at this all wrong. What if Celeste was a part of the royal family and they were planning to use her to take the throne? But if he wanted to do so, why would he put McCoy in danger by having my daughter attack her? Not only that, he also had the perfect opportunity to murder His Majesty. Imagine if he had placed a more lethal contingent spell in that glyph of contingency. His Majesty might have very well died alongside Von Sanctus, Sybil, and Pierce. Yeah, I suppose you're right, but we need to consider every possibility. Ugh, but I can't think of anyone else. Yes, there's a flaw with each suspect. Your logic is clearly flawed. Well, you don't see him coming up with any ideas. There's something here I'm not seeing, but I know I'm close. There's a missing piece that ties this all together. Regardless, we still have no idea who this Empress of Discord is. I am loath to allow such an individual to walk freely through Wyverngard. Your Grace, you've been alive since the creation of Wyverngard and magic. Do you know who this demon is? I can't say I do. Demons tend to take on many titles over their lifetimes. But whoever this Empress is, they are brave to so blatantly encroach on my domain like this. Well, I suppose we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. We've obtained a lot of information today, but we clearly have many questions that need to be answered. How should we proceed? Ugh. What is it, Mr. Cuthbert? I can't help but feel that there's something here I'm not seeing. I just can't put my finger on it. We have been working at this for quite a while. Perhaps we should suspend proceedings so that we can look into these new leads. I have no objections. It would give my men some time to look into what we've discovered today. Then it's settled. We'll be postponing proceedings for now, but you'll all be expected to return here by tomorrow morning. You are all free to return to your homes for the time being. But make no mistake, the King's Guard will be keeping careful watch over all of you. There's still this constant nagging sensation in the back of your mind. Hey, Tyrion? It's as if you've forgotten something extremely important. Tyrion? What is it? What could be so important yet so difficult to remember? Tyrion! Sorry. I was just thinking about everything. You're looking really stressed out. Do you want to head back to your house to rest? No, we only have a day until the trial resumes. If we can't figure out what happened after tomorrow, the magical traces will dissipate. But you already know what happened. You just don't know who did it. Yeah, excuse me. But we should speak with the suspects again. Maybe if I get lucky, I'll see something through the Eye of Horus. But one of the suspects is the Eye Taker. What are you going to do about him? I suppose I'll have to speak with him, too. What? No! What if he tries to kill you again? Arya's life is on the line. That's just a risk I'll have to take. Tyrion, do you even understand what you've been pulled into? What? Someone just murdered a bunch of nobles, and they even attacked members of the royal family. Now there are ancient dragons and demon lords involved too. Isn't this above your pay grade? Ouch. You know that's not what I meant. It's just this whole thing is crazy, isn't it? It's fine. It's just like any other of our investigations. It's not, though. What if the Empress of Discord attacks you? What if the patron decides that you're getting too close to the truth? Well, what if I can't? Her voice begins to break. Celeste? Are you still worried about what happened during the massacre? I'm fine. I already told you that you didn't do anything wrong. You almost died, Tyrion. I know. Tyrion, you almost died! I know, Celeste. No, Tyrion, I don't think you do. Do you have any idea how worried I was when you broke past me? When I saw you all lying on the floor, so many things were going through my mind. I don't know what I would have done if you were... She can't even complete that sentence. Celeste, You were so focused on everything else that you've been ignoring her. She was attacked by Arya and almost died. You never even thought about how traumatic that must have been for her. I'm sorry. I didn't think. Don't apologize. Just please. Please, just leave this to Lucio and the Skilled Lord. You've done enough already. They can figure the rest of it out. And what if it's not enough? I'm not so arrogant that I think they can't do it without me. But what if they can't figure out who the patron is? Arya will spend the rest of her life in prison. What if I could have done something to prevent that? I don't care if that happens. Celeste! I don't care, Tyrion! I'll apologize to her all you want after this. But all I want is to keep you safe. And I don't know if I'm able to do that anymore. Even she seemed surprised by what she said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm really happy you're a part of my life. What? I know what you're saying is coming from a place of care. And I'm really sorry about how much I've been worrying you lately, but you're not going to stop, are you? It's like I've always said. Man, king or god, nothing will stop you from getting justice for your clients. I'm going to talk to Lucio. What? If we're going to meet the Eye Taker again, we're bringing some knights with us. Celeste, that's hardly... Nope, you don't get a say in this. And if you're not here when I get back, I will find you. Judging from her expression, it's not an empty threat. Fine, just go. She might have a point, though. Before everything happened, you weren't even sure if you wanted to continue being an attorney. Maybe you should consider a safer, quieter life after all this is done. Perhaps a life with her. Even the narrator ships them. Wait. What? Alright, Lucio's cleared it. It was surprisingly easy to convince him. Oh, are you okay? I'm fine. Let's not waste any more time. Before she has a chance to respond, you hastily walk past her. Hey, don't walk so far ahead! You need to stay focused on the trial for Arya's sake. But when this is all over, you'll... Well, you suppose you don't have to think about that until then. Alright, let's save. We are now at part 5. Using the Kingsguard's teleportation network, you arrive back in Ratholm. Due to Celeste's insistence, you're being escorted by a division of the Kingsguard. They definitely make you look out of place. As you walk through the city, you draw strange looks from nearly everyone who sees you. Sir, where will we be heading first? Oh, it's a little strange giving orders to knights. It's definitely going to take some getting used to. What's wrong? There's definitely something I'm fundamentally missing. But what? Just don't push yourself too hard, okay? Yeah, I'll try to pace myself. Anyways, we should speak with each of the suspects and confirm their alibis. That might help me finally put things together. Each of the nobles has returned to their respective homes, but our teleportation network should help you travel around Wyverngard. Alright, so it looks like we're going to head to Frege Manor first. You arrive at Frege Manor, hoping to speak with Leifa and Miriam. After some asking around, one of the servants mentions that they appear to be entertaining guests in the study. You normally wouldn't interrupt them, but you've already eaten up a lot of time traveling here. Whatever they're discussing can wait. Arf, arf, arf! Ah! As you enter the study, Tracker runs up to you and begins barking. But once he sees who you are, he calms down. Oh, hello, friends! Sorry for Borks. Tracker thought he smelled something bad. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert! You scan the room and see that Miriam is there too. And they appear to be speaking with Lord Asclepius. Sorry for barging in, Leifa. No, it's no problem at all. Her emotions imply that she already knows why you're here. I'll skip the pleasantries. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions about what happened? Of course. I'll do anything to help with Lady Steelwind's situation. Should I leave? No, you were there with me when everything happened. And your testimony will substantiate my alibi. Ooh. Leifa, I'm sure you know why I'm here, but I just want to preface this by saying that I highly doubt you were behind this. No, I perfectly understand. Frankly, I'm also at a loss. I have no idea who did this. What are you talking about? It was clearly that criminal, the Eye Taker. Why don't you go interrogate him? Make no mistake, we fully intend to. But I'd like to cover everyone else before I confront him. Let him be, Miriam. But it's his fault that Beatrice is... Our sister knew what she was doing when she gave her testimony. Don't insult her bravery by blaming Mr. Cuthbert for what happened. What? Anyways, Mr. Cuthbert has shown many times that he's acting in good faith, and he's capable of convicting the criminals that even we can't see. You mentioned Beatrice before. Did something happen? It happened right after she gave her testimony this morning. She fell unconscious shortly after she left the Scaled Lord's lair. She hasn't woken up since then, and Marinoth has gone missing. What? It must have been the Empress of Discord. After you manifested Lady Steelwind's blood contract, we all realized why she was acting so strangely. Right. If it weren't for her, I would have never considered trying to issue a divine edict. She sacrificed herself to save Lady Steelwind. It seems our esteemed sister put her trust in you, commoner. So we will do the same. If there's anything we can do to help you, please ask. I appreciate your trust, all of you. But I have to ask, where were you all between 2 o'clock p.m. and 3 o'clock p.m. that day? Luckily, we were all together. Me, Leifa, Miriam, Beatrice, and her friend were all in the garden before 2 o'clock p.m. But at around 2 o'clock p.m., my sister and Ms. Ilmater both went missing. I can't believe we trusted her to take care of our sister. Hush now, Miriam. If the Empress of Discord took control of her, there was hardly anything Ms. Ilmater could do to stop it. I really do hope she's okay. She's been missing since the massacre. You mentioned that you all went to search for her. Did you see anything? No, we were originally planning to search the cathedral grounds. But... excuse me. When we arrived at the nave, we found Aster trapped in a force cage. Did any of you lose track of each other during that time? No, we stayed together for the entire time. But we did consider splitting up to cover more ground. But the Kingsguard found us and asked us to stay where we were. Right. I suppose that makes sense. And did you see Eris at all when this happened? No, we never saw her. Leifa's testimony. Beatrice Frege and Eris Ilmater were accounted for in the garden until 2 o'clock p.m. But after that, they both went missing. Eris supposedly lost track of Beatrice and searched for her in the garden. Leifa Frege, Miriam Frege, excuse me again, and Lazaric Asclepius were together and were about to search for Beatrice at 2:05 p.m. However, they were stopped by the Kingsguard, who reported that a glyph of contingency had just trapped Aster de Wyverngard in a force cage. She went missing at the same time that Beatrice did. That's really suspicious. You don't think... It's definitely possible she was involved in this somehow. Not to mention, the Eye Taker is one of our suspects. And she's his daughter. She's his what? You didn't know? I'd have thought that Beatrice would have told you. No, she didn't mention that at all. It looks like Eris has a lot to answer for. If you can even find her, that is. Aw, that's cute. I went through that. It's a painting of a man with a dog. That's David Ding, from House Ding. They're one of the branch families of House Frigga. He was a dog breeder with a bit of an obsession with the dogs he owned. As someone with a canine familiar, I feel a sort of kinship with him. Tracker-like fellow dog. He looks like the loyal type. You're not exactly sure how he's inferring that, but you suppose you can't disagree with him.
Arcane.
Okay. Contracts with a demon. I suppose I'll stop beating around the bush. Have any of you made a blood contract with a demon lately? How dare you, this arrogant little peasant! No, I understand where he's coming from. I want to understand, but the very idea is infuriating. Of everyone present, our sister was the only person with known ties to a demon. If she were to share that secret with anyone, it would have been with us. You didn't catch any incriminating thoughts from them through the eye, but you've been misled by it before. Excuse me again. Nevertheless, we still have no idea who the patron is. I was actually meaning to ask you during the trial. Can't you just use this divine edict of yours to figure out who the patron is? No, to manifest a blood contract, I need the title of the demon and the name of the human they made that contract with. I understand that, but why not just apply brute force? What? Due to the king's funeral, the Kingsguard has a detailed list of everyone who was present during the massacre. Whoever this patron is, they were working together with the Empress of Discord. That must mean they made a blood contract with her, yes? That's right! I could just keep issuing divine edicts until a blood contract appears. Wait, is that safe? There's only one way to find out. You take out your notes and begin looking at your list of suspects. You might be at this for a while, so you might as well go in order. You clear your throat in preparation. Empress of Discord, wherever you may hide, release thy guards and manifest your blood contract with Aster de Wyverngard. Ah! Tyrion, what's wrong? You collapse to the ground as you suddenly find yourself overcome in immense pain. What? What's happening to him? Lazarick, use your magic to heal him. Right! Oh, you silly, silly boy. You may be half human, but you can't just go all around declaring lies like that. What? And I was really looking forward to bringing you to the end of this. I haven't even started to have my fun yet. Who are you? Actually, I suppose that contract is still in effect. I guess my hands are tied. I'll save you, just this once. Ran. Tyrion, please, wake up! Celeste? You're okay. You most certainly don't feel okay. You can feel every part of your body aching. It's painful for you to even sit up like this. Are you okay, friend? Yeah. What happened? You died. What? I've never brought anyone back from something like that. That was my strongest spell, too. You have no idea how lucky you are. If I wasn't here, who knows what might have happened? I don't understand. The last thing I remember was issuing my divine edict. Wait, was that the cause? But I've done it before without any problems. I just used it this morning. Why did the divine edict harm you? It might be because Aster doesn't have a blood contract with the Empress. If demons are unable to lie, the same might hold true for angels as well. The Divine Edict is clearly some sort of divine magic, so asking for a blood contract that doesn't exist might be considered a lie. Sorry, it's my fault for suggesting it. No, I was being reckless. Please be more careful. I don't think my heart can take this. Well, at least we know Aster wasn't behind this. He was the most obvious one. Either way, you should still make note of this. Aster de Wyverngard has no blood contract with the Empress of Discord, obviously. Ugh. Anyways, it's clear that I can't just issue these edicts without thinking. I'll just have to wait until I'm certain of the patron's identity. Just please be careful. Anyways, it looks like you've found everything you can here. Perhaps you should move somewhere else. Let's see. We will go to the Grand Cathedral of the Skildlord. You arrive back at the Grand Cathedral of the Skildlord. You probably won't need to investigate the crime scenes again, but you wonder if Aster or Lucio might be here. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert. As you enter, you're approached by Aster, Alaric, and Lucio. How is your investigation? Are you okay? You look quite pale. Yeah, there was a bit of an accident earlier. You're a little too embarrassed to admit that you almost ended up dying. Well, try to exude more caution next time. It'd be dishonorable if you didn't fall by my hand. Why is everything you say so aggressive? Anyways, you finally have your next suspect here. But judging from the evidence you've gathered, it's very unlikely that Aster is the patron. You do wonder if he saw something, though. Why are you looking at me like that, Cuthbert? Oh, sorry. After he attacked you in Frega Manor, you've always been a little wary of him. If it weren't for Celeste's reflexes, he might have very well killed you that day. I'm not going to attack you again. I hope you can understand my uneasiness. You did almost kill me the first time we met. What? That's not... It's because you're a Heavensborn. What? What does me being a Heavensborn have to do with this? It's difficult to explain to someone like you. But warriors such as I must hone and develop our senses to survive in battle. Eventually, we develop the ability to sense hidden enemies and anticipate danger. I'd heard that such senses are heightened when in the presence of extraplanar entities. Until I met you in Beatrice Frega's Familiar, I thought those stories were complete nonsense. Me and Marinoth? As a Heavensborn, your blood is said to originate from the heavens. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I believe in the existence of other planes, but I admit that I still feel a certain aura from you that doesn't quite feel human. So that's why you attacked me? I was exuding a threatening aura? It was actually the opposite. Your aura was too calming and benign. I thought it must be some kind of trick or illusion. I see, that's quite an astounding ability. What about you, McCoy? What? Did you not sense a similar aura when you first met him? Is that true? Well... Wow, there's a really fancy carriage outside. I wonder who it belongs to. Oh, there's someone inside the inn, too. Is that guy visiting my dad? Oh, wow, he's kind of cute. Yeah. It was kind of similar. For some reason, you feel a little embarrassed. Aster, I'm sure you know why I'm here. It's because I'm one of your suspects, isn't it? Your Majesty, you are the reigning king of Wyverngard. I expect you to conduct yourself with more dignity. Of course, my apologies, Lord Steelwind. Anyways, questioning you is honestly a formality at this point. Really? A lot of the evidence works in your favor. He doesn't have a blood contract with the Empress after all. Well, I appreciate your vote of confidence nonetheless. Lucio, have you made any headway in figuring out who set that trap for Aster? No, I haven't. It makes me uneasy that you let someone get that close to my father's body. Yes, I can't begin to apologize for my men's incompetence. If they were more vigilant, perhaps we could have avoided this whole tragedy entirely. So your men were guarding the late king's coffin? Yes. There wasn't a single moment when his body was left unguarded. We found traces of illusion magic at the location of the force cage, although we're still not sure about who could have set that trap. There are also members of the Kingsguard that can cast both force cage and glyph of contingency, and many of them fell comatose during the massacre. So we don't even know if one of them betrayed us. Do you think my men are that weak, Your Majesty? I think anyone can be made weak when put through enough stress. Regardless, we have no way of telling who may have been guarding the coffin when the trap was set. This means that we have no way of telling when that glyph of contingency was set. I was actually meaning to ask about that. Couldn't we wait for the 48 hours to elapse? If we make note of the exact time the traces of evocation disappear, we can work backwards to discern the exact time the trap was set. Well, normally we could. When the spell activated, I unfortunately panicked and cast a firebolt to try to destroy it. Of course, it didn't even put a dent in the force cage. Because of that, he left traces of evocation at the exact location of the glyph of contingency. We can't discern which traces were left by the patron's glyph of contingency or His Majesty's firebolt. I'm terribly sorry about that. The trapped king has been updated in your notes. You can't blame him for reacting like that, but it's going to make figuring out who did this that much more difficult. Have either of you spoken to Arya since the trial? We have. I think she's doing the best she can, all things considered. No thanks to you. What? She's only in this situation because of you. Lucio, that's not me. You're the one who's heartlessly prosecuting her. She's far too weak for this. If that's what you truly think of her, you're grossly misunderstanding the kind of person that she is. She defied the role that you tried to force onto her, and she instead dedicated herself to fixing our broken kingdom. Ever since this started, all you've done is insult her. But you know nothing about her, and she's far stronger than you realize. Despite her lineage, she's always carved her own path and pursued her own justice. Her own path? She only became a prosecutor because of His Majesty. What are you talking about? She became a prosecutor to fix our corrupt justice system from the inside. And who do you think put those ideas into her mind? If she wanted to fix our justice system, she could have easily done so by slowly weakening House Sybil's influence. But she knew about your strange idolization of Ruby Time 1. And she knew how closely you followed each and every one of her cases. I know why she became a prosecutor. She thought that if she became like your idol and defeated her, you might finally notice her. You're wrong, Lucio. Arya Steelwind would never care about me that much. Are you seriously that dense? When you were still engaged to Lady Freyga, you flaunted your relationship in front of my daughter with no regard for her feelings. I remember each and every time I heard her silently crying in her quarters because of how oblivious you are. She's changed every part of herself in order to please you. Is he getting angry on her behalf? I had no idea. My daughter is far stronger than any of us, but she's weak when it comes to you. Lucio, there's no point in fighting amongst ourselves. Please stay focused on the investigation. It seems that he cares for Arya a lot more than you realized, and the eye shows that his feelings are genuine. But then why is he doing everything he can to convict her? The mood is a little tense. I must ask you, Cuthbert, why are you going to such lengths for my daughter? What do you mean? Surely you understand the gravity of the situation. By taking part in this trial, you risk drawing the ire of both the nobility and whoever this Empress of Discord is. What are you planning? Lucio, I'm not planning anything. Please, do you honestly expect me to believe that you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart? Well, Scaled Lord, you actually are doing it for that reason. Is this what all Heavensborn are like? I don't like thinking about it that way. I just can't stand by while I see injustice taking place. Even if you're standing in my way, I'll do whatever it takes to save Arya. I wouldn't throw around such promises so loosely. I'm not. I will save her, Lucio. Anyways, it appears that you still have no idea who set that trap for Aster. Judging from the spell compendiums you have, neither Arya nor Beatrice could have set that trap. But the patron could also be a mage. That means that they could have set that trap too. Either way, it looks like you won't be getting any new information here. And you highly doubt the person who orchestrated this is any of the people you've met thus far. There's one last person you need to talk to. You make your way back to the alleyway that Tymora brought you to a month ago. It would be too conspicuous to bring the Kingsguard with you, so they've hidden themselves in a building nearby. They gave Celeste an enchanted runestone to hold and channel her magic into. If she ever stops focusing her magic into it, the Kingsguard will be notified, and they'll storm the building. Are you ready? Yeah, let's do this. The Eye Taker is your prime suspect. Everyone else has an alibi and lacks a motive. Not to mention, Eris was with Beatrice when she went missing. You don't want to suspect her, but her father is a criminal. And she still hasn't turned up since the massacre. Alright, on 3. 1, 2, 3! What? There's no one here! Damn it! Of course he's not here. You betrayed him and you knew where his hideout was. You take a close look at the desk he was sitting at during your previous visit. There's a thick layer of dust on it. It doesn't look like anyone's been here for a while. He must have moved his operation elsewhere the day you convicted Beatrice. I guess there's no point in staying hidden anymore. You see Celeste toss the Kingsguard runestone onto the ground. A few seconds later, you hear the footfalls of soldiers rushing towards your location. Freeze! In the name of the Wyvern Guard! You see him freeze as he scans the room and sees no one else there. Be careful, sir. They appear to have turned themselves invisible. They're not here, you idiot! Oh. You let out a frustrated sigh as you take a seat on the chair nearby. A cloud of dust is launched into the air as you do so. He had the last piece we needed. None of the other suspects had the means nor the motive to do this. But he's probably long gone by now. It's over. I'm sorry. But you did everything you could, didn't you? But it wasn't good enough. A part of you knew that it was a long shot. If he were involved in this, he'd definitely keep his head down. What do we do now? There has to be someone who knows where he is. Wait a minute. Actually, there is one person who might know where he is. What do you... Wait, you don't mean... At this point, it's the only option we have. Are you sure? You two aren't exactly... I know, but I can't let my personal feelings get in the way of saving Arya. You're not looking forward to seeing her again. At least, that's what you keep telling yourself. You'll have to process these feelings later. You have a job to do. You arrive at the office of Tymora's law firm. According to Arya, Tymora is still practicing, so it looks like she hasn't gone into hiding like the Eye Taker apparently did. And if anyone knows where he currently is, she will. You bring your hand up to knock on the door, but you stop for a moment. Sir, after everything that's happened, you still don't feel ready to face her. For the past month, all those things you said to her keep replaying in your mind. You feel the familiar warmth of Celeste's hand again. You take a deep breath and steel your resolve. You knock on the door. Every moment of silence thereafter fills you with anxiety and dread. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I'm not currently accepting clients at... Cuthbert? She looks completely frozen for a while, but her gaze narrows as she notices the Legion of Knights escorting you. Are you here to arrest me? No, of course not. Can we come in? Yes, of course. You take a seat inside the office, but you can't really think of anything to say. And the knights aren't really helping to alleviate the tension. Hey, Celeste? Could you take the knights outside and do a perimeter of the building? What? But, are you sure? I am. But what if something happens? Celeste, we're in a populated building in the capital city of Wyverngard. I think I'll be fine. No, but... Sorry, you're right. I'll just... With a motion of her hand, the knights follow her out of the office. Right before she leaves, she waits at the door and looks at you for a while. But after a while, she realizes how long she's been staring and quickly closes the door. Now then, let's get this over with. It's a painting of a noblewoman? Not quite. That's Eliza Tantivy. She was a common folk professor at the Imperial Academy, and this portrait was commissioned by one of her noble patrons. It really just shows off their wealth, though. It doesn't celebrate anything noteworthy. Why do you have this, then? I like her, and she's a good reminder that the common folk are just as competent as the nobility. It's a painting of some sort of pirate. He was a pirate that was famous for ruthlessly destroying the ships of anyone who stood in his way. During the Great Luminite War, the Wyverngard Crown hired him as a privateer to protect Oranax from the Theocracy's navy. He sailed near my hometown? During the Great War, Oranax was a vital foothold for Wyverngard's navy. Unfortunately, he was captured by the Theocracy and executed for his crimes. But I hear he gave him the runaround for 8 years before he was captured. It's a bookshelf. There are several books about law and national history. You read a lot of these books front to back while studying to be an attorney. I always wondered how you could afford these things. I guess I finally know now. It's starting to get dark outside. We don't have much time left. It's a seat for Timora's clients. It looks extremely comfortable, but she never let you sit in them when you were a child. Is Celeste okay? She seems a bit on edge right now. Yeah, I think she's just been overprotective lately. I don't really blame her. I did almost die a few times the last few days. What? It's a long story, and I don't think I'm even allowed to talk about it, especially not with you. That last part came out with a little more disdain than you intended. You take a deep breath. I received your letters. Oh, did you... I haven't gotten the chance to read them yet. Of course, whenever you're not busy. This is really awkward, but you were going to have this conversation sooner or later. Perhaps it would be best to just be direct. Ms. Tamora, I trusted you. I know. I trusted you. I told you everything about myself. I put all of my hopes into you, and you lied to me. You told a criminal about the Eye of Horus. It took me years before I was comfortable enough to tell you about it, and you knew that. Why did you even adopt me? You could have just left me in Oranax and moved on with your life. Why would you pull me into this? It sounds like she's trying to look for an answer, but nothing comes to her. I've started thinking about what my life could have been like. I could have done so many things. I might have been able to move on from losing my mother. But you adopted me. You made my entire life focused around that one moment. I had a son once. Before you, I mean. What? I wasn't always a city person. I used to live in an old farm town, just like McCoy's. My son and I used to run an old tea shop. Just the two of us. Wait, you ran a tea shop? I know, it's ridiculous now that I think about it. But I was really happy back then. What happened? One night, a local nobleman had too much to drink at the local tavern. He barged into our shop and started destroying it with his magic. My son tried to stop him, but the Inquisition swept the entire case under the rug, obviously. They said that the nobleman felt threatened and acted in self-defense. She never told you about this before. What was his name? It was Ryan. Oh. What did you do after Ryan died? I thought long and hard about what I wanted to do. I was hurt and blinded by rage. So I decided I would take justice into my own hands. Wait, you didn't... No, at the time, I thought that killing him would be too easy. I broke into his manor and found every incriminating document I could find. I found everything from records of illegitimate children to plots he was making against other noble houses. I released everything to the public. It absolutely ruined him. That's when I realized that there was a way to make them pay. You didn't have to harm or kill anyone. You could just beat them at their own game. You could use the rules and laws they made against them. Just like an attorney. Yeah, just like an attorney. When I realized that, I moved to the city and started studying law. I read every book there was to read about Wyvern Guard's laws, and I learned how to work the system. I started representing clients who were clearly being framed by the nobility. But I really didn't care about saving them. I just wanted to see the look on each noble's face when I implicated them with irrefutable evidence. But it got more difficult. As I started punching higher, the nobles got smarter and more influential. I continued to acquit my clients, but the trials got closer and closer each time. But I was arrogant, and I felt invincible. I thought that no matter what happened, justice would prevail. And then your mother's case happened. I've never met someone that remarkable before. She had this way of making you feel happy, no matter what kind of mood you were in. Yeah, I remember. But I failed her. And I failed you. Ms. Tamora, I never once blamed you for what happened. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that I couldn't acquit her. She was executed because I didn't do enough. When you asked me to train you to be an attorney, I was blinded by my desperation. I felt so alone and helpless. I wanted someone, anyone, to carry this burden with me. So how pathetic must I have been that I'd look for that in a grieving 10-year-old child. When I looked at you, all I wanted to see was myself. I saw a hurt and broken person who wanted revenge on the nobility. But I was too self-centered to realize that you were nothing like me. You care about people, and you cared more about saving your clients than harming the nobility. I think I knew all along, but I just refused to see it. Maybe you were right about me. What? Maybe I was just using you to make myself feel better. I took you from your home and forced you to dedicate your life to my dream. Maybe I never really cared. If I did care about you, I would have never pulled you into a life like this. I'm sorry, and I can't begin to apologize for doing that to you. The eye shows that her feelings are genuine. But does that even matter at this point? I've been thinking long and hard about this. I want to forgive you, Ms. Tamora, but I don't know if I can. I don't blame you, but I want to try. She looks away from you for a moment, as she wipes a single tear. Ms. Tamora, no, don't call me that. What? If you can truly find it in your heart to forgive me, I want things to be different this time. I'm not your superior, nor your mentor anymore. We're equals now. So call me by my first name. Oh, okay, Ruby. Saying it feels really strange after all these years. But you hope you can get used to it. Right, I almost forgot the entire reason why I came here. What is it? I didn't just come here to reconcile. I actually need your help with something. Okay. I need you to help me speak to the Eye Taker. Tyrion. I know, considering the circumstances, it would probably strain your partnership with him even more. Tyrion. But if you could just tell me where it is, I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't get traced back to you. Tyrion. The Eye Taker is dead. What? He died right after you convicted Beatrice. He was lynched by a mob of civilians. What? Everyone's saying that it was some sort of retaliation from House Frigga. Didn't you notice that he didn't send anyone after you? But Eris said... Wait a minute. By the way, is your father still... Oh, if you're worried about him, we've already had a conversation about you. I don't think he'll be accosting you anytime soon. Oh, thank you. Then why would Eris say that? Eris? Who's Eris? What? You've met her before. She has long black hair and she wears a black dress. I suppose she really likes black. But anyways, she's the Eye-Taker's daughter. Tyrion. The Eye-Taker's daughter has red hair. What? She was there when we spoke to him during Beatrice's trial. That's right. What are you talking about? She was never at that meeting. What? What is going on? She was clearly there. If it weren't for her intervention, the Eye-Taker would have attacked at that very moment. Why are you remembering things differently? I'm sorry, Lucio, but whoever this patron is, they have full ownership of her mind. They could have easily commanded her to forget signing the contract in the first place. That's probably why she can't remember what happened during the massacre. No! Tyrion, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? A part of you really hopes that you're wrong about this. Why are Ruby's memories different from yours? That's the only explanation you can think of. But why? Her memories seem intact, except for her memories of Eris. Since her disappearance, you've highly suspected that she was involved in this. Not only was she at the scene of the crime, she went missing at the same time that Beatrice did. But you never thought to ask one question. Who is Eris Ilmater? No, Ruby signed a blood contract with a demon, and that demon changed Ruby's memories of Eris Ilmater. Eris Ilmater was present at the crime scene during the massacre, and in addition to that, she's been missing since everything happened. A flood of memories come back to you. Warriors such as I must hone and develop our senses to survive in battle. Eventually, we develop the ability to sense enemies and anticipate danger. I'd heard that such senses are heightened when in the presence of extraplanar entities. I thought those stories were complete hogswash until I met you and Beatrice Frega's familiar. Tyrion, I've fought literal monsters and barely escaped with my life. But when I'm near Eris, none of those creatures come even close. I get this feeling. It's like I'm in front of a predator that I couldn't ever hope to be. Every instinct I have tells me to run whenever she's close by. I'm terribly sorry. He's not usually like this. It's to be expected. I'm not sure why, but animals have always disliked me. There's still very little you know about demons. So what's to say that one can't take the appearance of a human? But it's still a long shot. But there is one way to find out for sure. He's gonna do the divine edict. Tyrion, talk to me. What's wrong? Ruby, I'm about to do something stupid. If I fall unconscious, I need you to call Celeste and tell her to contact Lord Asclepius or the Archduke. What? If you're wrong about this, there's no way either of them will get here in time. But it's already late, and the trial resumes tomorrow. You can't waste any more time traveling to either of their locations. Eris Ilmater, wherever and whatever you are, by the eye of Horus, I issue upon you a divine edict. Release thy guards and manifest your blood contract with Ruby Tymora. So, you finally figured it out, my dearest Tyrion. This entire time, I've been chasing you. You have. It's been so entertaining watching you scramble around. You've been making contracts with people across Wyverngard. You took control of Arya and Beatrice. But why? Why would you want to do any of this? Oh, I can't possibly reveal all of my secrets. This isn't the proper stage to have our final battle. But I suppose that you've come this far. So how about I give you a little gift? Ruby's blood contract. Upon signing this contract, Ruby Tymora grants the Empress of Discord access to her memories. At any time, the Empress may view any and all of Tymora's memories. In addition to that, the Empress may instantaneously change and alter her memories whenever she wishes. It's signed with Ruby Tymora's name. What was that? Ruby, Eris Illmater is a demon. And she's not just any demon. She's the Empress of Discord. And you signed a blood contract with her. That's why you can't remember anything about her. What? Tyrion, I swear on my life that I didn't know anything about this. I know. She probably tricked you into signing this. Just like she tricked Arya. Arya? What does the prosecutor have to do with this? Come on, you two. I know things are kind of tense, but there's no need to... What are you holding? Is that a blood contract? Celeste, Eris is the Empress of Discord. What? It was her the entire time. She tricked Arya into signing a blood contract with her. And she probably controlled her and Beatrice to orchestrate the entire massacre. What? Tyrion, this is crazy. I know I was scared of her that one time, but how could Eris be a demon? She looks nothing like Marinov. I know how unbelievable it is, but I used my divine edict with her name. That wouldn't have worked unless she was a demon. Yeah, I guess I can't disagree with that. We'll need to contact the Grand General immediately. But if she's really a demon, is it even possible to arrest her? It's already been a day. For someone like her, that would be more than enough time to skip town. We'll need to speak with the Archduke about this. Thank you, Ruby. You've helped us more than you could ever know. Yeah, of course. Celeste, let's meet up with everyone. We'll need to discuss our next course of action. Right. You're about to leave Ruby's office when she stops you. Tyrion, have you been using the Eye of Horus lately? Yeah. I can't say much about what I'm doing right now, but I am in the middle of a case. It's just that... What's wrong? Never mind. I don't think it's my place to say anything. I think I'm just being my usual paranoid self. I'm not the one with the ability to read minds anyway. So if you're not seeing it, it's probably nothing. Okay? I know you can't tell me about what you're doing, and I have no idea what could possibly involve the Kingsguard, Steelwind, and the Empress of Discord. But just stay safe, okay? You're the only family I have left. I will, I promise. Thank you. You've finally found the lead you've been looking for, but you're not sure where this will take you. Knowing what you know now, you're almost a little afraid of what might happen. Who is Eris? Why would she go to the trouble of orchestrating any of this? She not only impersonated the Eye Taker's daughter, she also pretended to be your friend. What's her goal in all of this? Hopefully, tomorrow will finally bring you the answers you're looking for. Is something wrong, Commander? Don't play dumb with me. They told me what you really are. What's your game, demon? Why would you just deliver yourself to our doorstep? Oh, Orym, I've put far too much work into this story to miss the final act. I can't wait to see how this ends. You killed 3 people and enslaved an innocent girl. Is this all some kind of game to you? That's exactly what this is to me. I'll admit, looking back, it does feel a bit derivative. But I think I've done enough to differentiate myself from those who came before. It's a shame about the timing of it all, though. You're goddamn insane. That took you long enough to notice. I guess the Oafish Inquisition Commander does have some observational skills after all. Whatever. You just better not try anything. You know I can't lie, so I'll reassure you. I promise I won't harm anyone while I'm in this prison. Ugh. We're finally approaching the climax, Tyrion. No more deductions. No more talking. No more god-awful teasing when we both know who is really behind this. It's just me and you. Okay! Alright, everybody. Let's see. It is 9:45, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a big day today. I had doll club, I went out grocery shopping, and I'm pretty tired. My voice is going to be shot, so I apologize, but I'm going to have to call things for the night. We're at a good place to stop, so let's just take a look and see who's streaming, and we will give them a raid. Who is streaming? La 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 la. Let's see. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Alright, so it looks like BitNerd Games is playing Pokemon Black 2, so we will give him a raid. Alright, everybody, thank you very much for joining me. We are going to hopefully wrap this all up on Monday night, and then we're just going to switch to some Kuso games for the rest of December. Okay, so everybody, this has been Jewelry Jelly with Catherine and George Washing Machine. And until we meet again, may all of your tea times be perfect. Good night.